Okay, we're talking about week one in college football. So we have a lot to talk about here. Normally, the show will air at 4 o'clock every Thursday here on the RLEDs Football Network, the RLEDs Football YouTube channel. We had to schedule our NFL season preview with Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. It's already available up on the channel. You can check that out. So since we did that, we rescheduled everything, including our 4 o'clock show for this time. We're doing this at 11:30 Eastern time on Thursday morning. Again, every Thursday, though, check back with us at 4 o'clock Eastern as we preview the week in the NFL and college football. But this week, Mark, we're only going to be talking about college football because the NFL has the week off, and taking a look at some of the games that we're going to talk about. I'll tell you what, let's stay chronologically with the games starting on the weekday. And I don't really see anything like big on Thursday or Friday. It would be nice to have like something on Thursday or Friday. I guess the game everybody will probably watch is the North Carolina-Minnesota game. North Carolina beat Minnesota last year 31-13 in North Carolina. Keep in mind the Tar Heels are only 3-10-1 against the spread in their last 14 as a road favorite. And I want to remind everybody that throughout the course of the season, I will be referencing a lot of trends, and most of them are going to be coming from right here in the Marc Lawrence's Playbook magazine, which is available at playbooksports.com. So check that out. Some of the trends will come from the newsletter, which you can also receive by going to playbooksports.com, the weekly NFL and college football newsletter. But most for me will come from the guide. Anyway, Mark, as I said, Tar Heels haven't been good in this spot lately. And Minnesota has revenge on their minds. It's an 8 o'clock start on Thursday night, which is tonight. And they've got the New Hampshire FCS quarterback whiz, Max Brosmer, making his debut in the FBS. So I'd probably side with Minnesota because of that trend and because of the revenge factor. But this is not a big game that I'm really too concerned with.
Well, I'm not either. Like you mentioned, the revenge factor for Minnesota here, the home dog in the football game. North Carolina breaking in a new quarterback. I don't think breaking a new quarterback in on the Big Ten road is the optimum best situation. I would take the points here with Minnesota.
Okay. Let's see. Let's now move on. By the way, there's a Friday night game, TCU at Stanford. Stanford is only 4-11 in the last 15. Actually, let's not go with that one. Let's go with the other one. They're 6-1 last 7 as weekday dogs of 10 or less. What do you think about that weekday number? We don't really get to reference it too often. Matter of fact, if you look at it, North Carolina, we just talked about the Tar Heels, 1-7 in their last 8 against the spread as a weekday in a weekday game. And Stanford yet 6-1 in the other game on Friday against TCU, 6-1 in their last 7 in the weekday dog spot of 10 or less. So, what do you think about those weekday trends?
Well, I think they apply most favorably during the course of the season when a team is taken out of their regular schedule. Normally play Saturday, here it is November, and suddenly you're playing a Friday game or a Thursday game. I think that's more relevant because
Okay.
you're breaking up a little bit of a biorhythm pattern which the players have become accustomed to. First game of the season, though, I don't think it applies all that much.
Okay. Let's now go to Saturday and starting with those noon games. There are some good ones. Of course, the big one everybody's going to be watching is the Clemson Georgia game. The Bulldogs are a 13.5-point favorite. There are some conflicting trends here to keep an eye on and stats overall. You have Clemson coming into this game as 13-2 against the spread in their last 15 as a dog of 4 or more points. But on the flip side, Georgia's 9-2 against the spread in their last 11 as non-conference favorites of 36 or less. Keep in mind, if you're interested in taking Clemson as the 4-1 money line dog, Georgia is 46-2 straight up in their last 48 games. So I'm not sure that's the way to go. But what do you think about those conflicting trends and the game in general? Because I'm kind of feeling like maybe I should be taking the points, similar to what happened a couple of years ago when these two teams faced in that first game of the season and there were only 13 points scored in the game.
Well, I'll tell you this: Georgia in their last 45 non-Alabama games is 45-0.
Even better.
That's pretty strong. Also, AP number one seeds in the preseason poll in their first game of the season openers are 33-0, straight up 19-8-1 to the spread. All good stuff for Georgia right here. But you've got that really strong dog log trend there to Clemson with Dabo Swinney. And I feel personally Dabo Swinney is going to be the team to beat in the ACC this year. I think they're going to come with everything they've got, Clemson will here. I'll take the points with the Tigers.
Okay. Let's talk about a game that I'm actually going to be wrapping up on Saturday over on the Penn State football YouTube channel. This is because I'm going to be doing the Penn State post-game shows all season long. And Penn State is an 8-point favorite at West Virginia. The money line's about 250 for West Virginia. And I really like what I see here trend-wise from Penn State. They are 15-0 straight up, 11-2 against the spread. In the first 5 games of the season over the last 3 years. They're also 9-1 against the spread the last 2 years as a road favorite. Throw on top of that, they beat West Virginia really easily last year by 23 points. First game of the season, 21-point home favorite. Now you're only having to worry about giving up 8 points just because you're going on the road. So I think Penn State's going to be maybe better than they were last year because their quarterback should be better. Everybody's talking about Drew Allard and whether or not he could take that next step. Well, he should. So I think if that's the case, as good as I think West Virginia is going to be this year, I think they'd be a solid Big 12 team. I think Neil Brown's got this team headed in the right direction. I really like that couple of those trends from Penn State, and I'm going to side with the Nittany Lions as an 8-point favorite.
I'm going to go the other way here, Greg. In that 23-point win you alluded to, Penn State over West Virginia in season opener last year at Happy Valley. For most other teams, that would have been a 16-point decision because what happened there, James Franklin with a 17 or 16-point lead with 6 seconds to go in the game, faked a knee and ran the ball into the end zone. That's the kind of pig that he is. Okay?
It's terrible.
Yes, it's absolutely terrible. And what did it do? It also happened to cover the point spread, okay?
Yeah, that's a little
alumni,
suspicious.
I guess, who
Yeah.
knows? But I can rest assured Neil Bryan remembers that. The players that were there last year that are here this year remember that. And I also like the spot that West Virginia's in. Last 20 season opening, or last 20 home openers, I should say, 19-1 outright West Virginia. I think they pull the upset.
Oh, the upset. All right. They're plus 250 on the upset money line. I like that, though. I like the because this is college. NFL, it doesn't matter unless it's a division rivalry game, and it's got to also mean something. But in college, man, they don't remember this stuff. They don't forget this stuff.
No, they don't forget this stuff.
No. So that's interesting. I'm going to have to think twice about taking Penn State. All right. Virginia Tech's at Vandy. We bring this up because we both expect Virginia Tech to have a good season this year. And how about this one? Vanderbilt is 6-22 against the spread in their last 28 as a home dog. That is downright awful. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech last year as a road favorite, 3-0 against the spread. It all happened in their final 3 games away from home last year by a 144-59 margin. So as Virginia Tech got better with their young team at the end of the last season, they were just obliterating teams on the road. Bad teams. They're now starting the season on the road against a bad team, and that bad team has a bad trend of 6-22 in their last 28 as home dogs. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on Virginia Tech minus 13.
Well, I can understand where you're going here because there's not a lot to make a case for Vanderbilt with in this game, especially given the fact that under Clark Lee, they're only 9-27 since he's taken over the reins there. But he has a tough time attacking the transfer portal, and the main reason he does is because of the GPA for the players that are transferring in. They have to be at least 3.83 to go to Vanderbilt.
Wow.
That leaves a lot of people out of the picture.
Yeah.
And mainly a lot of talented people out of the picture here, too. I don't like laying 13 points on the road in a situation like this, but Vanderbilt is, in truth, Greg, let's tell the truth like it is. They're not an SEC team. All they happen to do is reside in the division here. I like Virginia Tech with you as well.
A big matchup in the Big 12, as far as the Big 12 team, that is one of the favorites, Oklahoma State. They're a 10-point favorite. I think it's come down just a little bit against South Dakota State, the 2-time FCS champs going into Stillwater, and Oklahoma State given 10. Oklahoma State, by the way, the Cowboys are just 2-5 against the spread the last 2 years as a home favorite. And keep in mind, they were upset last year by South Alabama early in the season at home. So this is one of those games where I would not take Oklahoma State, even though it's tempting because it's only 10 and it is an FCS team. But it's the first game of the season, and I'd probably just stay away from this game. I don't know if I'll be enticed to go with the money line with South Dakota State because it's close to 3-1. But it may not be the worst idea in the world. But Oklahoma State's, it's still they're a top Big 12 team this year. So it makes me think otherwise.
Well, can you look and see who State has on deck next week? Possibly, are they looking ahead possibly to anything that might warrant their attention there, as opposed to an FCS opening week opponent?
Let's see. They are going to be they're playing an SEC home game against Arkansas.
Okay, well, that's not really truly a look ahead.
No,
it's not a Big 12.
It's not Utah,
yeah, exactly.
Which is going to be in a few weeks after that.
So we'll discount and throw out the look ahead possibility here for Oklahoma State. They are deeply talented. They're a team, I think, that would be playing in the Big 12 championship game this year. They bring it back a ton of experience, does Oklahoma State. But this is dangerous. These are spots like this that are very, very dangerous for teams like this to go into a strong powerhouse FCS team. Give me the points, plus the points here. I have to take those double-digit points here with the home dog here, the home team here. I'll fade Oklahoma State in this role, although I like them real well this year.
Okay, Miami and Florida, and Miami's a 2.5-point favorite in this one. Keep this in mind. Florida's head coach, Billy Napier, he's under a lot of pressure. He's 9-2 straight up and against the spread in his career as a head coach, dog of fewer than 5 points, home or away. But last year they were in the spot once, and they lost at Kentucky as a 1-point road dog. And I think that, to me, that might matter based on the fact that a lot of people are wondering that team last year, not very good. They're expecting Florida. I mean, the win total line is 4.5. I can't believe it. I mean, look, I'm going over 4.5. I don't think they're going to be that bad. But keep an eye on Montrell Johnson, the running back. He's banged up. Not sure if he's going to play or not. That would be big. But since I'm taking Miami to win the ACC or play in the ACC championship game, I obviously believe that they're a better team than Florida. So I'm going to take Miami in the 2.5 here. Not that I'm, going to make it a top pick or anything like that, but I just think they're a better overall team.
Well, they are and should be a better overall team. They bring Cam Ward in here. He threw for almost 14,000 yards and 113 touchdowns in his career at the transfer portal. He'll be a big addition, I think, to this Miami offense. And as you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's whether or not Mario Cristobal can do anything or take advantage of a quarterback with that much talent. He hasn't done it before in the past, and I don't know why he'll do it here. This is a Florida football team that is really grasping. I think, as you mentioned here, the hottest seat of all hottest seats in college football has to be right here with Florida. And they've had 3 losing seasons in a row for the first time since 1947. If they lose again here, there's no question where Napier will be here. I love the fact Florida 41-1 straight up in their home opening football games. Make that 37-0 if they're non-conference opponents here. Give me Florida in the swamp against Miami of Florida.
Yeah. Either way, they're playing an FCS team next week, so they should win that one. But then they host Texas A&M, and we both like Texas A&M this year.
Yes.
But after that, they're at Mississippi State, Central Florida. So I think even if they lose this game, I think Florida will be able to get their season going in September. I don't think this will be because if they lose to Samford, then you might as well fire him on the spot because he won't be coaching the third game against Texas A&M. All right, Miami of Ohio at Northwestern. Northwestern's a 3-point favorite. They had a much better season than anybody thought. They even beat Utah in that bowl game. Not that, I don't think Utah really cared much. But, hey, it was a win. And Northwestern did something that nobody thought they were going to do. They were going to go to a bowl, won a bowl game. Nobody thought they were going to win. But I think they come back to life a little bit this year. They've always been that kind of Jekyll and Jekyll team. They'll have a really good year one year, and then they kind of come back down to life. They're 2-10 against the spread. Their last 12 versus MAC teams, and that's what they're doing. They're hosting Miami of Ohio, who could be the best MAC team this season. They upset Northwestern 2 years ago in the same situation as a 7-point road dog, and Miami of Ohio is 9-3 against the spread. Their last 12 as a road dog. So I'm going to go ahead and take Miami of Ohio in the short upset.
I agree with you. I think Miami's going to be challenging for the MAC conference title. I'd be surprised if they're not playing in the title game itself. In Northwestern, you had a team that did a nice turnaround last year from a one-win team to a nine-win team. That was the largest improvement by any college football team from one year to the next last year. Usually you'll find teams like that when they're favored the following year, that regression, the return to the norm, and I think it takes place in a football game just like this. I like this Miami football team, a 25-year-old quarterback, if you will, and Brett Gabbert is playing his sixth season in college football for Miami here. I think Gabbert leads them to the win over the Wildcats.
Okay, now we're going to go to some of the night games and my first double-digit upset of the year.
There we go.
And this is going to be one of your teams that you like in the Conference USA against one of the teams I actually like, and that's Rice. But I'm taking Sam Houston against Rice. Rice is a 10-point favorite at home.
Too many.
And yet, Sam Houston ended their season 3-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread in their last four, 5-2 against the spread as a road dog last year. So I definitely like the points, and I say why not just on top of it. I think this is one of those spots that's not a bad idea to go also with the money line at 3-1.
I agree with you on both counts. I do like Rice this football season. I think they'll make some noise, and I think they'll be in a bowl game by the end of the football season here. Sam Houston was a little bit disappointed last year. They were used to just chewing up winning championships at the FCS level, and then they had an indoctrination last year into the FBS. I like their chances in this particular football game. I think what happened to them last year, that experience pays off in a game like this. I'll play Sam Houston plus the points as well.
By the way, Arkansas State is only a 9-point favorite at home against Central Arkansas. Now, I don't know if you'll get the line or not, but if you do, I think you should take it. I mean, you like Arkansas State as a team to watch in their conference this year, the Sun Belt. I looked at Central Arkansas. I did some homework on them, and I'm like, what's so special about Central Arkansas? I don't get it. I don't see anything special about them. I'm not sure. I think this is just the fact that Arkansas State hasn't been very good recently, more than anything. So, look, it's not a major play, but I just thought it was interesting. I thought they were getting a little bit too much respect with Arkansas State being the home favorite here, just 9. So,
well, what you've got is another red-headed stepchild play in Central Arkansas.
Yeah.
You know, looking up to the guy that gets all the recruits and all the headlines and all the press. So you usually get big efforts from teams like that, especially in the first game of the season. I agree with you. I would take the points here.
By the way, UNLV and Houston. Houston has moved up from 1 to 2.5. So I'm a little bit surprised by that. We know Willie Fritz is a good coach, but there's a transition going on there. UNLV is going through no transition. We know what kind of year they had last year. And this is a game I think that is going to work out perfectly for them. They're 10-5 against the spread. Their last 15 as a road dog. Houston 2-9 against the spread. Their last 11 as a home favorite. And keep in mind, though, there is a new coach in Fritz, so Holgerson's gone. You know, some of those numbers did go with Holgerson. But I just think UNLV is a better team than Houston. So I'm taking UNLV as the slight road dog.
I'm going to lean the other way here, Greg. Not go there hard, but lean the other way. I know UNLV is catching a lot of ink this year for all the good things they did last year. That was really, really a good season they had last year under a new head coach. But now you got a shorter number here to a Houston football team that disappointed last year. And I'm a big Willie Fritz guy. In his career, in season opening games, he's 7-2 against the spread, 4-0 at home in those games by an average win margin of 20 points a game. I think Houston gets the Willie Fritz era off on the right foot on Saturday. I like the Cougars in this game.
Okay, now we'll talk about a huge game Saturday night, Notre Dame at Texas A&M. The Aggies right now are a 3-point favorite. No surprise in which I'm going to go here. Of course, Texas A&M is one of my teams this year. They're 9-5 in the last 3 years as a home favorite against the spread, and even better, 19-1 in their last 20 non-conference spots as a home favorite of 17 or less. I think they're a better team than Notre Dame, so I'm definitely taking Texas A&M minus the 3.
I like the Aggies in this game as well. I don't like where the line's moving, and the line's moving largely because of Notre Dame injuries and a real green offensive line. They're going to start 5 underclassmen, Notre Dame, on that offensive line against a staunch Texas A&M defensive front. and I think that's a mismatch in A&M's favor in this contest here. There's a neat stat inside this game. It's our incredible stat in our newsletter. And the last 55 times Notre Dame has outgained an opponent, they've won 54 of those games on the scoreboard. So the question is, can they outyard Texas A&M in this game? I don't necessarily think so, because you look at Texas A&M, they take care of business in the stats themselves. They do really rather quite well. I'm going to ignore all that in the stat stuff, staying on with what I think is the better team with A&M with you in this contest.
By the way, Kyle Kelly from the On3 Network covers the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He's been our official insider for the Irish the last couple of years. Going to be my guest, 2 o'clock Eastern, live right here on the Arlads Football Network. Don't forget to check in, a couple of minutes late. Sometimes we don't get on the air, usually to a few minutes after the top of the hour or whenever the shows are scheduled. But anyway, just check that out, and I'll find out more about the Notre Dame offensive line and also about the matchup against Texas A&M. Oh, by the way, I got to ask you about the Georgia State-Georgia Tech game, because we've talked about it on another show or two, being that Georgia Tech is coming back from the big win overseas, no week off, didn't have a whole lot of time to get ready for this opponent compared to Florida State. Georgia State, meanwhile, new coaching staff. We just talked about the little sister kind of deal. Georgia State taking on the big one, Georgia Tech. It's a 21-point spread. There are 10 to 1 on the money line play as well. You seem to really think that this is a tough spot for Georgia Tech.
I do, and in fact, I'll go so far as to call this a Greg DePalma special. I like Georgia State in the upset here in this football game on a money line. They're catching.
All right.
They're catching, as you mentioned, Georgia Tech in the perfect role with that win over Florida State in Dublin, Ireland, coming back with no rest. And you've got a new head coach here with Georgia State in Dell, who was the recruiting coordinator for Georgia for 16 years. He knows the players in the state like the back of his hand. He'll know these Georgia Tech football players, believe me. And the other side that works in this game is Georgia State is listed as the visiting team in this contest. Both schools reside in the city of Atlanta. They're only 2 miles apart. It's not going to be like a road game, a true road game for Georgia State here. I like the upset in this contest.
All right. And then we've got the games going on Sunday and Monday to wrap up the show. You got LSU at USC on Sunday night. They're a 4-point favorite. The Tigers are just 3-7 as a road favorite against the spread under Brian Kelly the last 2 years. And this is a real fascinating game because both young quarterbacks stepped in for the top 2 draft picks in their bowl wins last year. The kid Miller Moss threw 6 touchdowns in the bowl game. The other kid for LSU, played well in his bowl game start. And I expect both of these kids to have very good seasons. I still got to favor LSU, though, until I see a different USC. I do think they're going to be better on defense. They were able to steal UCLA's really young, solid defensive coordinator away. That's going to help USC's defense out. But still, I'm just having a hard time believing that USC is going to just be able to turn things around this quick against one of the better teams that is supposed to be contending for the title in the SEC.
Well, quick is what Lincoln Riley is all about, Greg. Take a look at his resume, his coaching resume in his first half of the season, first 6 games of the season in his career. He's 39-4 outright, 12-0 with Southern Cal. Hasn't lost one of these football games since he's been with Southern Cal. I also like the part that here he is what I call a hot rod Lincoln. He loves taking points as underdogs, does Lincoln Riley. He's been terrific in his career. 5-1 to the spread when he's getting more than 3 points in a contest. 4-0 to the spread during the regular season in these football games here. I think the site really favors Southern Cal here, just being a few miles away from Los Angeles, a little bit of more than a few miles, but much, much closer than LSU. I like Southern Cal to get off with another winning start here. They pull the upset on LSU.
Yeah, this one is Vegas, right?
Yes, Vegas.
So we're going to keep that in mind. Which is obviously better for LSU that they don't have to actually travel to play on the road against USC. All right, and then Monday Night Football, Boston College is playing on the road. They're at Florida State. Florida State coming back from the loss in Ireland. They're a 16.5-point favorite, down from 17. Boston College is a 5-1 money line dog outright, down from 625. So they're getting a little action, Boston College. And maybe they've already been paying attention to some of the shows you've been doing, Mark, because this might be the same thing we're talking about, even though there might be some people who would say, well, shouldn't Florida State want to take it out on Boston College after what happened last week? I don't know about that.
Well, wanting to and being able to do it are two different things, Greg.
Yes.
And I think they catch the wrong team here in Boston College. Ideally, I would have loved to have Florida State come back with a win
Yeah.
and really be playing down the Boston College
Real flat,
level.
yeah.
But they're not. But what they are is this, and there's a unique angle inside the game. It's in our Playbook football newsletter, and I'm going to share it with the listeners out there. It's our awesome angle of the week, and what it involves is teams that are playing their second game of the season taking on an opponent that's playing their first game of the season. Well, the teams that are playing their second game of the season, if they're going into revenge and they won 10 or more games the previous year, those teams are just 2-14-1 against the spread. That works against Florida State in this particular football game, and I like BC as the dog here. I think they'll take this game right down to the wire. Florida State is not what Florida State was last year. I think this football team is going to struggle just to make a bowl game this year.
All right, so that wraps it up. Our week one analysis and picks, and so I've got a double-digit upset in there in Sam Houston. You've got one in Georgia State, which is nice to see. I also want to remind everybody that we have our college football season preview show that's available on the channel. You can check that out. We go through all of the conferences, give our predictions on the championship, everything you'd want to know about in-season predictions or preseason predictions, I should say. That includes our top bargain futures, the future plays that we have to win the championship, and even Mark's got some for the conference championships. So we're going to be doing that every week. Also, we're going to be updating our top futures for the championship. Mine are Miami, Texas A&M at 40-1, Utah 55-1, North Carolina State at 130-1. And just so I'm on the record for my top Heisman bargain options for August 29th, I'm going to start with Connor Weigman at 30-1, Cam Rising and Noah Fafita at 40-1, Quinshon Judkins and Ollie Gordon at 75-1, Luther Burden at 80, Grayson McCall at 110, and also Tetaroa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona, at 110 as well. So those are all my top bargain Heisman options, because that's where you want to start early. Anybody can give Georgia and Ohio State and even some of the 10 and 12-1 future odds in the first week of the season. But you want to take advantage, especially for these futures now, because an instant impact game, as you're aware of, Mark, especially for the Heisman, can change dramatically. You can get a player at 100-1 going into week one, and then he has a phenomenal game and he's 10-1 the next week.
Exactly right. You got to watch these odds because they change like the weather. And in fact, remember this, that it's been 10 years now since the preseason Heisman Trophy favorite has won the Heisman Trophy. So that trend is working really kind of against, if you will, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Okay, so keep that thought in mind too before you start chasing chalk in this Heisman Trophy betting race.
And you like Jalen Milroe. He's your pick to win the Heisman at 14-1.
Yes, I do. We did it on our podcast earlier. We did the Heisman Trophy checkbox list, and there's criteria, like 3 or 4 criteria, and only 3 quarterbacks checked all 3 criteria. It was Carson Beck from Georgia, Jalen Milroe from Alabama, and Drew Allar from Penn State. Those are the 3, and of the 3, I think Milroe has the best chance of playing in the college football Final Four.
Yeah, and Penn State's quarterback is 45-1. Beck is 8-1. He's the second choice behind Gabriel. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Again, check back with us every Thursday, 4 o'clock Eastern here on the Our Lads Football Network and the Our Lads Football YouTube channel. Starting next week, we're going to be doing double duty. It'll be an hour. We're going to do college football for the first segment, or vice versa, and NFL in the second segment. So we'll be talking both college football and the NFL every week here on this show with Marc Lawrence from PlaybookSports.com and also the Playbook Experts YouTube channel. Mark, good to talk to you again.
This is the Our Lads Playbook Football Hour. Is that correct?
Whatever you want to name it. I know they've changed it. We had so many different titles that I don't even remember what we decided.
Just inform me before the show begins next week, if you will.
I will. All right. See everybody again next week. And good luck, everybody. It's week
Have a
one of
great day,
college
Greg.
football. Yeah.
Thank you much.